nostalgia plays a powerful role in the world of entertainment. This is especially true for gaming, where despite being the equivalent of a toddler when compared to other forms of media, fans still pine for the old days. They yearn to rekindle the sense of wonderment and joy they felt when they first turned on their NES oh so many Christmases ago. The beginning of gaming was a time when gameplay was simple, stories were only somewhat complicated, and exploration was as inconvenient as possible. Systems like the NES and SNES created the foundation for generations of gamers, and because of that, gamers have an affinity for new games made in a retro style. A remake of E.T. NES? Shut up and take my money! Enter Octopath Traveler, a self-proclaimed love letter to the JRPGs, more specifically SNES, days of old. But unlike most fan service retro games, Octopath Traveler is much more than an SNES JRPG rehash, or even a love letter. In a period of time where graphics grow more and more realistic with each new AAA release, Octopath offers a relaxing journey of self-discovery and addictive gameplay.
We begin with our 8 travelers.
8 heroes, 8 stories, 1 adventure. That's one of the taglines for an Octopath Traveler trailer, although it's not entirely true. Octopath tells the story of 8 characters traveling the land of Orstera on a journey of self-discovery and personal achievement. Ophelia, the noble, kind-hearted cleric. I chose her as my first hero because magic. She's more of a healer than an attacker, but she always got the job done. Cyrus, a brilliant scholar with looks that could swoon a goddess. He's the black mage of the cast, dealing very effective elemental damage right from the start. I probably used him a little too much. Tressa, oh so sweet. This sweeter than candy merchant in training only has one goal in mind: to travel the world and fill her book with her own adventures, at a great discount of course. Her variety in weapons and exclusive wind magic make her a viable member of the party.
Thank you!
Olberic, a legendary knight with a tragic past. He's the physical powerhouse. While he's useful in battle, his story is only somewhat engrossing, although it has its moments. That combined with his somewhat boring playstyle left a mediocre impression on me. Primrose, the gorgeous dancer, a desert flower. Her revenge journey contains some of the darkest moments in the game, and you just can't help but root for her. Coincidentally, she uses dark magic. It's not a coincidence. Alfin the Apothecary. He's okay. Who am I kidding? He's a great guy! A talented medicine man with a big heart. His ability to heal any status effect is beyond useful. Also amputation. Therion, a skilled thief who is slow to trust even the most trustworthy of people. At first, I wasn't a fan of his edgy, I work alone style, but he grew on me as I furthered his story. And once I understood his skills more, Therion became one of my favorite characters. Hunnet, the beautiful huntress of the forest. Her skills make her one of the top hunters in the village. Her ability to provoke is far more interesting than Olberic, and her Pokemon catching style made for some fun experimentation. Did you know the first letter of the 8 protagonists in Octopath Traveler spell out the word Octopath? They are also placed in that order on the back cover art and on the in-game map. Did you know that? I bet you didn't. It was a total secret to everyone. Only the most observant of minds could figure that out. Consider yourself blessed with knowledge your feeble minds fail to comprehend. Man, I'm a genius. However, instead of experiencing one grand journey together, the 8 characters uncover their own stories alone. Think of it as 8 separate stories in one game, rather than 8 characters journeying together. Aside from battle and some minor side conversations, the main cast doesn't interact with each other in the slightest. It's as if your chosen hero is traveling by themselves, when they clearly are not. Honestly, I was a little disappointed about the lack of connection between the cast. I expected a deep, overarching plot flowing from beginning to end, with plot holes filling in as you add more travelers to the party. And perhaps that's my own fault for expecting that, although Octopath's marketing didn't help temper that expectation. I know there's a final dungeon that ties them all together in some magical way, but I was looking forward to a congruent story from the beginning. Granted, having a grand plot that connects 8 stories from the beginning to end would be no easy task. From the get-go, Octopath Traveler lets you, the player, choose which journey you see first. You can start with any character and then travel to the next story in any order. That leaves a lot of possibilities for the developers to prepare for, all depending on who you have in the party and when. So keeping the stories separate allows the player to experience the game in their own unique way, without killing the developers. That said, Octopath Traveler still manages to tell beautiful stories, albeit a little basic. In a way, these bite-sized adventures were more relaxing than epic, a nice change of pace from typical video game storytelling. The real charm, however, comes from the Octocast learning about themselves and understanding the world around them. Granted, some stories captivated me more than others, but I connected to the characters rather quickly and eagerly rushed forward to the next chapter.
At first glance, this might seem like your typical turn-based battle system, but let's take a closer look.
Created by the Bravely Default team, no way! Octopath Traveler uses a turn-based combat system. You have a maximum of 4 in a party who each have weapons, magic, and skills only they can perform, with some weapons overlapping. Attack variety is essential because every enemy you come across has at least one attack they are weak to. When hit enough times with these weaknesses, the enemies break, stunning them for a turn or two, the perfect moment to unleash a devastating move. Oh, that feels good. Of course, the game expects you to break your enemies, so creating a party that takes advantage of these vulnerabilities is key. Trust me, you'll never beat a boss doing this. Oh, that's a good job, I feel. Yeah. At least you tried. Yeah. But some enemies take longer to break than others, and attacking once a turn probably won't cut it. Thankfully, Octopath uses a BP system, similar to Bravely Default. Instead of Brave Points, however, BP in Octopath stands for Boost Points. Completely different, not the same thing in any way. Normally, each standard attack does one hit, but adding boost points to your attack allows for consecutive hits. Your skills also deal more damage, depending on how many points you use at a time. However, using BP on skill moves only increases the move's potency, not the number of hits. Attacks become more powerful, healing restores more HP, status effects last longer, and unique skills gain a higher chance of landing. With this BP system, you're constantly thinking about the best way to exploit weaknesses while also saving BP for the appropriate times. A difficult encounter with one party could be a breeze with another, if you properly manage weaknesses and BP. Octopath Traveler's most satisfying moments occur right when you figure out how to break and kill a particular tough enemy. Although, difficult enemies are not in short supply in Octopath Traveler. A random encounter gone wrong can easily send you to the game over screen. It's a sure sign that perhaps your current party isn't ready for this region quite yet. But that doesn't mean you have to grind necessarily. In fact, during my 60 hours, I didn't stop to grind once. Sure, I fought almost every encounter I came across, but Octopath's world map let me know roughly what level I should be before attempting that chapter or area. Knowing that, I traveled through areas slightly above or under my current level as I made my way to the next chapter. Of course, bosses are another story. Bosses? I think you mean meat bags! Unless you happen to be over-leveled by 8 or so levels, prepare to spend roughly 30 minutes on these meat bags. Why won't you die? That's not to say they're terrible fights, you just need to come up with a killer strategy sooner rather than later. Otherwise, the meat bag transforms into maximum overdrive and wastes your entire party. But if you play your cards right, landing the final blow is oh so satisfying.
Which characters will you take along on your journey? Just imagine the possibilities.
However, Octopath's true brilliance is its customization. The more I hear from others about their favorite team, abilities, jobs, and features, the more I'm amazed at Octopath Traveler's moldability to match a plethora of playstyles. Of course, some playstyles work better than others, but it's liberating to find the strategy that works for you. Part of this customization comes from the 4 kinds of path actions. As you make your way through cities and towns, you'll use the Octo Traveler's talents to interact with the world around you, discovering hidden items and solving many tricky side quests. And these side quests are much more than typical fetch quests. They can be solved in a handful of ways, depending on whose path action you use. Granted, some quests have to be solved in a specific way, but having options lets the player come up with a solution best for their situation. Another major layer of customization comes from the job system. Each of the 8 characters has their own unique job or class that allows them to use certain weapons, spells, and skills. Utilizing these attacks to break your enemies becomes increasingly prevalent as you go from chapter to chapter. As you enter the second chapter for a character, you'll notice some travelers fare better in certain areas compared to others. And more often than not, you'll change your party to take advantage of that. That's the beauty of it. Octopath Traveler doesn't force you to make that decision. It may nudge you in that direction, but you're allowed to play your way. To add even more depth, the 8 characters can equip a second job, opening further possibilities for customization. I've spent many an hour in Octopath experimenting job combinations, equipping different job skills, and finding the jobs I enjoy the most. There are some jobs that I must have in my party. Thief and Scholar. I know some who swear by Apothecary, and some who need a merchant on their team at all times. But again, that's your choice to make. One small caveat to this, however, is no one can have the same second job. My dream of leading a band of edgy thieves is crushed. Also, just look at Tressa as a hunter. She has a freaking derpy wolf on her head. It's so cute and morbid, I love it!
In Octopath Traveler, every choice is yours to make.
Octopath Traveler places SNES sprites in 3D-like environments, creating a wonderful, unique blend of retro and modern-day graphics. Games like Octopath prove the 16-bit art style is more than just a nostalgic tool to milk retro gamers. The style has a place in modern-day video games, as long as the gameplay is fun. Thankfully, that's the case here. The environments in Octopath are a beauty to behold. I was particularly impressed with the Riverland environment. Something about the setting felt peaceful and calm, as if I was walking along the riverbanks of some uninhabited land. Nothing to distract me from the scenery and the trickling of the water. So relaxing. Oh, man, battle time, just a sec. Where was I? Oh yes, relaxing. The towns also offer some pleasant eye candy to take in, and I found myself picking prime real estate in my favorite towns. I can dream, can't I? My biggest issue with Octopath Traveler's visual design are the dungeons. There wasn't a lot of variety to them at all. Just basic mazes with branching paths leading to treasure. When you have breathtaking views like the ocean glimmering as you run across the beach, or a cathedral shining brighter than the white snow, the dark, damp caves are a bit of a letdown. Mind you, there are some better looking dungeons, but most are dark and uninteresting. Also, the foreground sometimes obscures the main character, which is more annoying than challenging. On the audio side, Octopath Traveler's soundtrack is a masterpiece. I hope I'm not using that term too loosely, but I fell in love with almost every composition this game had to offer. From the moment I first opened the demo, the music enchanted me. I'm going on an adventure! The character and town themes are some of the most calming and peaceful pieces I have heard in a video game. Sometimes I put down the controller and just take in the wonderful theme. So far, Victor's Hollow is my personal favorite. At the same time, the battle music is upbeat and catchy. Despite how many battles I ran into, I happily hummed along with the music. In that sense, the battle music was just as relaxing as the overworld themes.
Welcome to the world of Octopath Traveler.
Octopath Traveler is more than a love letter to SNES JRPGs. It's a tremendous work of art that's a few steps short of a masterpiece. What it lacks in story and character interaction, it makes up for in addictive gameplay, deep customization, picturesque scenery, and gorgeous music. It proves that retro-style games can be more than a cash grab. Lovers of JRPGs of all ages will not only feel right at home with Octopath Traveler, they'll never want to leave. Last thing I'll say, I've played over 60 hours of Octopath, and I have yet to come across one octopus. 4 out of 8 legs, very disappointing, would not recommend. Oh hey look, I found one. Thank you so much for watching. How are you liking Octopath Traveler? Who's your favorite hero? Let us know in the comments below. If you want to hear more Octo Talk, check out our most recent podcast episode. If you like what you see, consider subscribing to our channel. Also consider donating to our Patreon. A little goes a long way. Goodbye, you good people.